and welcome along once again to It'll Be Alright in the 90s, the podcast which has just broken up from school for its summer holidays and is already bored out of its mind. I'm Stu Joslin, and joining me, as always, is Alex Greenwood, who had a very significant birthday since we last spoke. Alex, how you doing, mate?
I'm older is how I'm doing, unfortunately. I'm in a new decade. I'm in the 40s. Can you believe it? I'm sure the listeners won't be able to believe that from what they've the scene of me on social media, the pictures of me and the sound of my voice. They probably still think I'm in my late 20s, but alas, I am now 40. But it was nice to see you. Lovely to see you down at the Stag and Hounds for the birthday do. And of course, we weren't just seeing you, we were listening to you because you were on the ones and twos, DJing for the punters in unfortunately the hottest room in Bristol on the hottest day of the year. So unfortunately, there wasn't a whole lot of dancing, but it was nice to see you anyway.
Oh, it was absolutely my pleasure, and it was such a pleasure to meet pod legend Kate Pro as well, who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting in the flesh before, as it were. And she was lovely, you were lovely, it was a lovely night. And yeah, no, absolutely my pleasure to stick on the ones and twos for you, even though everybody almost immediately left the room and didn't come back.
Yes, there was a very enticing outside area. I think a lot of people were somewhat appreciative of a breeze on that evening.
We also had a little gathering of all the sort of podcast behind the scenes people, didn't we, to celebrate your birthday? And it was very nice of Jeff to organise the hire of the bridge room at the lodge for 15 minutes, wasn't it, so that we could do that. That was very good indeed. Everybody was there, me, you, Jeff, Dad of the Pod, Sheila Bowden-Hill. Unfortunately, though, and I haven't told you this until now because I didn't want to cause undue disappointment, our surprise guest was supposed to be former Norwich City manager John Dean, but he did get stuck in traffic in Yatton Kennel and had to turn back. So unfortunately, mate, we couldn't do that for you. But no, it was a lovely do. They were both lovely dudes.
Yeah, well, thanks for not telling me that beforehand, because I would have been incredibly excited and therefore crushed when John didn't turn up. So I'm glad you've told me afterwards. But it was nice. It was a strangely formal 15 minutes in the bridge room, I thought, for a birthday do. But I think that is just the vibe down there at the lodge, isn't it? So it was to be expected. But it was very nice nevertheless.
Yeah, everybody was wearing ties. Disappointing there was no food, but Jeff said something about there being a rule in the bridge room that there was to be no food or drink brought in there. So unfortunately, we couldn't do that.
I think some of the guests had definitely preloaded on wingback before the do. I noticed there was some slurring of words and a little bit of swaying, especially from Dad of the Pod. But yeah, fair enough. That the rules are the rules, aren't they? And you can't mess around.
Well, when I left, he was asleep in his favourite wingback in the sitting room in front of an episode of Lingo.
Yes, he was. Yeah, well, he does love that show, and after a few glasses of Wincarnis, and nothing's going to keep him awake, not even Lingo.
Well, tonight, as you might have gathered from our introduction, we are talking about school summer holidays. Before we get to that, though, a word for our sponsor tonight, which is the 1996 Beano Summer Special. Essential reading for the summer holidays, available from participating branches of John Menzies for just £1 if you quote the code ALRIGHT90s. That's a saving on the cover price of £1 5p. Many thanks to our friends at DC Thompson for sorting that one out for us.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have those guys on board and very apt, I think, for the summer holidays, as I imagine a lot of our listeners will be digging into their summer annuals over the summer holidays when they're at a loose end, whether that's the Beano or the Dandy, and maybe a Whizzer and Chips or a Topper. But yeah, lovely to have DC Thompson and the Beano on hand. Who was your favourite Beano character?
I was a subscriber to the Beano for many years, as you know. I always used to enjoy Roger the Dodger.
Yeah,
I think that was possible. I mean, obviously Dennis is up there. Dennis, your Minis, your Bash Street Kids. There was one just before I stopped reading it. They were sort of introducing new characters. I remember Dennis got a baby sister called Bee, who wore like a yellow and black striped baby grow. So that was just before I sort of stopped reading it. But they had a character called Vic Volcano who had an uncontrollable temper. I remember, and that he used to like breathe fire and stuff when he got angry. So yeah, that was a pretty good one. How about you? You were a Beano guy, weren't you, if I remember correctly?
I think I lent. It's pretty 50-50 between the Beano and the Dandy. I did like Billy the Whiz, who I think was he Beano or Dandy? Billy the Whiz.
Oh, he was Beano, yeah.
Beano, yeah, probably him. Then I did like Roger the Dodger as well, very much so. It was the Beezer. I don't know if that's within the DC Thompson umbrella, but I did like the numbskulls in the Beezer. I don't know when the Beezer ceased publication. It feels like it's a little bit older than the Beano.
Numbskulls definitely came over to the Beano. They were in the Beano, yeah, when I was reading it, so they must
Yeah,
have transferred when Beezer shut down, I guess. I'll have to look into that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I used to love a summer edition of a comic as well for if you were going away or whatever, just have that bumper magazine of things to read and do. I had a great Roy of the Rovers one as well, which I'll probably talk about later. Melchester
Nice.
Magic, yeah, that was good.
I was very much an annual sort of boy rather than the weekly comics. I would just have an annual, probably picked up at a car boot sale for a job lot or something that I would work my way through.
Time for a quick look at the post bag and at the bulletin board. Alex, I imagine since our enforced layoff, things have been piling up for us to get stuck into.
You'd have thought so, wouldn't you? But we have a couple of things. The first thing is actually just a massive news development, which I'm sure you and all our listeners are already aware of. This is, of course, 2 weeks in the past from when we're recording to when this is being released. So it's big news today and yesterday, and it'll probably still be being talked about when this comes out. And this is, of course, the news and the photos that have emerged of Katie Holmes and Joshua Jackson. Of course, Joey and Pacey from Dawson's Creek are working together on a new project. Katie Holmes is directing, writing, and starring in, and Joshua Jackson is also starring in. And the Dawson's Creek world has gone absolutely ballistic. It's just out of this world. The amount of excitement, I've not seen anything like it. I am counting myself amongst those excited fans, and basically, I can't wait to see what comes out of it. It'll probably not be for a while, but that was just massive news I had to mention, and I hope. Well, I know that Catherine is also very excited. Actually, I saw yesterday that Catherine has announced that the Dawson's Weekly Pod is coming back as a result of this great news story. So that is fantastic news. And we look forward to hearing them back on the airwaves because it's been way too long. So that's going to be great.
We certainly do. Anytime Catherine appears on the airwaves is fantastic, and I'm very pleased for you. Obviously, I have very little to no skin in this particular game, but I'm so happy to see you so excited and so enthused about it. So I just hope whenever the project, whatever it is released, it lives up to your expectations. I'm sure it will.
Yes, we can only hope. Another thing from me is a message from Adam J. Fisher, who gets in touch regarding our What's the Most 90s landmark discussion from a few weeks ago.
Hmm.
And he says, Sega World. I remember it being unobtainable to visit. The parents had no interest and we lived too far away up north, so we never bothered asking. Didn't entertain the idea, but we were interested in the place. Whereas the Angel of the North is a massive disappointment. As big a disappointment to me as Alton Towers was to David Brent. It was always featured in tacky local 5:30 p.m. TV news up here every other day. Either some kid was taking his cage budgie up to visit, or some old fellow was painting an insipid watercolor of the thing. Dull as ditch water, it made me wish I was held back in school and detention. Don't bother visiting. I've seen more impressive statues outside budget shopping centres composed of Iceland and B&Ms. So yes, that is a far from glowing review of the Angel of the North from Adam J. Fisher there. But it appears, yeah, big on the scene in the northeast, which is, I suppose, not that surprising.
I was planning to jump in the car tomorrow and finally go up and see it, but I'm not sure I'll bother now.
No, it doesn't sound like it's worth it, does it? Not at all.
Interesting thought there as well about not asking for things as a child because you think it's unobtainable and just never bothering. I remember asking if I could go to a performance Vauxhall show at Santa Pod Raceway in Bedfordshire. And
Yeah,
unbelievably, my parents said yes and took me and Diamond Joe Barter. And it was like a 4 hour drive, but they
yeah.
took us. And it was just one of those things where I said, can we go? Expecting fully to be shut down, but I thought I'll ask. And it actually happened. So Adam, maybe you should have asked. You never know your luck.
They called your bluff, didn't they?
They
Is
did.
that,
Right, we'll take you to see all these performance Vauxhalls.
yeah. It's because your dad loved Cavaliers, I
Well, that's
suppose.
it. Well, they had them on Deo by then, so
Okay.
he was the only man driving a Ford in the entire sort of Santa Pod region, I think.
Yeah. I also have a second message here, and this is from Dad of the Pod, who's got another update from the lodge, which we were just talking about in the intro.
He's woken up then. That's nice.
Yeah, I don't know if this was written before or after the coma, but this is what he says for his latest missive. I met your studio sound engineer and the Two Pigs again the other night, brackets, and before Stu gets all pedantic about the Two Pigs closing down sometime in the last century, let me make it clear that advanced age means my memory allocation for names filled up a decade or so ago, and all pubs are now called the Two Pigs, just as any new people I meet are called there, as in hi there. This was the Two Pigs on the road in Corsham that sort of goes up the hill, just along from that knick-knack shop whose name I also can't recall. Where was I? Yes, your sound man was telling me about Jeff trying to get more sponsorship again and how he's going to persuade you two to do the narration like other podcasters do. You'd have to say things like how great Sky TV is and pretend you watch it all the time. That sort of thing. Podcasters are usually bad acting, though, and it always sounds like they're reading off a script. So you'd better start practicing saying stuff like, I particularly like the Real Housewives of Wiltshire reality TV show, unique and compelling TV, without laughing. Another update, you'll remember my warning you a while ago about Jeff's crypto scheme. Well, we were looking up stuff on the Masonic Lodge computer, brackets installed by Alan Turing, according to old Bob, the other day, trying to find out what Bob's modest investment of £25 was worth now. The number 5527 came up on screen, and Bob was dancing a celebratory jig when Alice's mother noticed there was a decimal point before the first five, bringing the mood down considerably. I'm glad I only invested a tenner. So there you go. Jeff's crypto scheme, unfortunately, did not come to very much, it seems.
Another scheme collapses. I'm trying to work out what pub that he's referred to as the Two Pigs that isn't the Two Pigs in Caution. He met our sound engineer in.
Yeah.
Up the hill, along the way from a knick-knack shop. Up a hill.
Yeah. Do you think it might have been, well, the rail, what's it called? The railway one? That's at the Great Western. That's at the bottom of a hill, isn't it? So, yeah. I mean, he might have had a few glasses of Wincana, so maybe up was down and down was up for him at this point. But yeah,
possibly the Royal Oak. That's nearby to some knick-knack type shops, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true.
Or maybe the Flemish Weaver, which it actually is a knick-knack shop if you go in there.
Yeah.
Possibly one of those.
Yeah, but all the Two Pigs to him. But thank you very much for that message, and do keep them coming in down to the pod.
Please do. I actually saw Dickie Doyle, erstwhile landlord of the Two Pigs, yesterday, and it was lovely to see him.
That's good. Glad that he's still going.
Just one thing from me. I've run out of things to watch on TV. All of my series have finished, although a new series of Lego Masters Australia has just started on E4, so looking forward to catching up with that soon. But when I find myself in one of these TV chasms, where else to turn, of course, but the big archive of Match of the Day episodes from the 90s on the peerless DM Arsenal Archives channel. And I was watching one such episode the other day, and I felt moved to forward it to you, Alex, for a couple of reasons. Well, it's watchable in its entirety, really, for, as I say, a number of reasons. The first of all is that it comes live from Wembley Arena directly after a Frank Bruno fight, which had been broadcast on TV just before. So the Match of the Day boys were in the studio at Wembley Arena ready to go. Clearly the BBC had the fight, and then it just went straight to Match of the Day. That was a fight against Pieter Kotzer, by the way, which Bruno won by knockout in the 8th round, 17th of October 1992, so just at the start of the Premier League era. But there were a couple of points here that I really felt were worth investigating. I asked you to watch both of these, so hopefully we can do some Hansen and Brookings style analysis on these. Mm-hmm. The first of which was a free kick for Everton against Coventry City, pretty much on the 3-yard line, I would say, if a 3-yard line existed. This is in American football. Definitely in the 6-yard box. And this is just after the advent of the pass-back rule. Mm. So Steve Grizovic has picked up the ball. He shouldn't have done. The referee gives the free kick where he picked up the ball, which unfortunately is very close to his goal. And what he does is he lines up all 10 Coventry outfield players on the goal line and positions himself in front. And then as soon as the ball is struck, he just throws himself at it as hard and as fast as he can and manages to save the shot, which is absolutely superb.
Over Cotty's head. Oh, what a bad error. And the goalkeeper picked the ball up and the referee's called it a back pass. Brian Burrows. It was a horrendous error in the first place, really, by the defender. He completely missed his clearance, Burrows. But the ball went back to the goalkeeper, and that, according to Bob Hamer, is the pass that is now against the law. It's right on the 6-yard line. Obviously it's indirect, but either Bigre or Hinchcliffe would look to... It's Hinchcliffe! Oh, good save! Steve Ogrizovic threw himself out of the wall. Well, I haven't seen a closer free kick this season, and that'll cause all sorts of debate again about the interpretation of FIFA's new directive to referees.
I mean, that's definitely now died out, hasn't it? Now that the pass-back rule has been in force for more than 30 years, you very rarely see fouls being given for that sort of thing nowadays. So the comedy indirect free kick inside the area is sadly not something we see a lot anymore, is it?
No, not at all. And a couple of points from me for this incident. And I thought the reason you sent it to me was the fact that it's so clearly not a pass back.
Christ, no.
It's such a ridiculous decision. The defender, I don't know who he is, tries to he basically tries to volley it clear, but he slices it, doesn't he, so badly that it kind of just goes backwards. And Ogrizovic picks it up. So it's obviously not an intentional pass back. It had to be an intentional pass to be a pass back. And it did take me back to one very sour memory of my own from playing football on a lunchtime on the playing fields at school, where I attempted a volleyed left foot clearance. I'm right-footed, of course. I don't know why I say it. Everyone knows that. Yes, I attempted this left foot volley clearance. Obviously sliced it so badly it actually went backwards, and Big Tim Parker, who was keeping net as he often did, picked it up, and immediately, not only was it picked up as a foul, as a pass back, but they were awarded a penalty, Stu. Well, I should say they awarded themselves a penalty for this non-pass back, which they duly dispatched. And I've never forgotten that injustice, that lunchtime injustice on the playing field. And this actually took me back to that, this commentary incident.
Well, yeah, and neither should you forget that. That's something that is going to rankle through the ages. I know we're diverting it, but I have to tell you about something that happened at five-a-side the other week.
Go on.
Okay, so I am playing in goal, as I always do. We have a player called Justin Darby. Hi, JD, if you're listening, who is invariably late. So he normally turns up when we've been playing already for about 10 or 15 minutes. And the ball had not gone out of play. He had not been allocated a team, but he'd wandered onto the pitch on my right-hand side. A striker for the opposite team came through, played a 1-2 with him, and then scored past me. And of course, I was up in arms. The whole team was up in arms. And what resulted was a penalty to the opposing team.
Why?
You tell me. You tell me. That again is one that's gonna go to the grave. But apparently, they scored by using a player that hadn't been allocated a team yet and who just wandered onto the pitch. And the fairest way to resolve that was for them to have a penalty, which unfortunately I couldn't save. And I mean, there you go. It's both of us. Both of us raking over these old wounds.
Yeah, that's foul.
Any referees listening, can you give us your view on both of those, please? Anybody with any sort of football officiating knowledge, please let us know. Yeah, if we're right to be up in arms about this.
Mm-hmm. And I also thought the 6-yard box was there because you couldn't have a free kick within that. What is the 6-yard box for? I thought that's why it was there.
Well, I mean, in this case, the free kick was given. I think there was a lot of confusion around that rule when it came in about what constituted an intentional back pass, where the free kick should be given from. I have seen other old episodes of Match of the Day where a similar thing has happened and the referee has given the free kick from where the pass was played as opposed to where the goalkeeper picked it up. So there was very, very inconsistent application of the rules during this early period. And there was one more thing from this particular Match of the Day which I found hilarious and I thought you would appreciate, which is Ian Butterworth almost scoring the own goal of the century.
Yeah.
Norwich City against QPR. He lashes it on the full volley, again, from about the 6-yard line, and it comes crashing off the crossbar.
He hits it so hard, it hits a crossbar, goes down directly onto the line and bounces back up and hits a crossbar again. That's how hard he hits it. I genuinely think he thought he was shooting the other way for a moment because of the way he strikes that so crisply, and it just doesn't look like he's going to try to clear it at all. It's amazing.
I mean, it was brilliant. Gunny was beaten all ends up. For that one.
Yeah, I mean, as you would be from three inches out with that power.
Holloway. Great ball. This is Bailey. Oh, it's an own goal, is it? No, it came back off the underside of the crossbar. did that stay out? Ian Culverhouse, in front of his own goal, lashed at that, and he smashed it against the underside of the bar, and it looked all ends up an own goal, but somehow it came back out.
Well, we will post a link to this particular match of the day in the comments so that you can view it in its full glory. Leeds United striker Lee Chapman turns up as one of the pundits as well, having played at home for Leeds that afternoon and then motored down to Wembley Arena to be a pundit on match of the... Maybe he had tickets for the boxing and they were like, hey Lee, do you reckon you can...
Yeah, definitely. It was him or Bruno, wasn't it?
And there's a brilliant sort of extended highlights of that match between Everton and Coventry. Great free kick from Peter Beagrie. Brilliant Coventry away kit. A lovely Peter Unlove goal as well. So well worth your time.
One of the great football kits, that Coventry away shirt. Made by Ribeiro, the official kit manufacturer of the pod.
Our friends at Ribeiro.
One final thing, which I'm going to surprise both our listeners and you, my co-presenter with here, Stu.
I don't like being surprised on the air.
No, I know. Sorry, I think that probably breaks one of the stipulations of your contract there. But
yeah, I think you're allowed to do it twice per calendar year. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Or is it a financial year?
Oh, one of the two. We'll have to check.
Yeah. Well, I've been inspired by your mystery photo film that you had developed from 1997, which I think was the last episode where you revealed what was on that film. And it just got me thinking about nostalgic photos. And I want to launch a competition with no prizes, obviously. It'll be all right in the 90s. And I want to launch a competition for our listeners to send in their most nostalgic photos from the 90s.
Oh, yes, please. Yes, please.
They have to be from... You have to be connected to them. You can't find them from somewhere else. They can't be like a third party's nostalgic photo. It's got to be something from your own collection, and it's going to be an ongoing competition. There won't be a deadline. Just keep sending them in as you find them, and we will put them on our social media if that's okay with you, and we will comment on them and basically choose our favorites from them. So please do send in your most nostalgic 90s photographs.
I think friend of the pod, Teresa Stenson, is going to be very high up on our list for this. Definitely. Yes. There's going to be some crackers from her, I know.
Speaking of Teresa, she did send us on our Instagram the Katie Holmes, Joshua Jackson news story at 4:00 this afternoon, which I was almost insulted by the idea that she thought I didn't already know this had happened. But so I half appreciate it and I'm half insulted by it. But there you go. Thanks, Teresa.
Well, I can't wait to see everybody's submissions. Yeah, please do get in touch with those, and hopefully we'll have some to go through on the next episode.
Time now for What's the Most 90s, and this is a really good one, I think. This was suggested by Adam Greenwood, brother of the pod, legend of the pod. The other Adam. There's two Adams now, providing most of the ideas between them. And this is What's the Most 90s fragrance. So specifically fragrance here. I'm not talking about just any smell from the 90s. It has to be a product of some sort. So what do you think of this, Stu?
I've gone for a very famous fragrance, Sport.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you a little bit about this. I can't remember if I was gifted the whole lot or whether I was just allowed to take one bottle. But around 96, 97 came into my possession a really small bottle of aftershave that just had the word Sport written on the bottle. And it was part of a gift set of 5. And they were all, I remember they all just had one word titles like Inspire, Touch, Sport, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And like I say, I don't know if I was given all 5. Very young to have aftershave, but I remember the Sport one was mine. And my main use for this was to put a little dab on a Thursday evening when me and my dad used to go to the library in Corsham to go and take back our library books and look for some others, because the library used to open late on a Thursday. You could go in there up until 8 o'clock on a Thursday. And there was a girl from primary school who used to go in the library at the same time, and I used to meet her in there on a Thursday. It was just happenstance. We would just quite often meet up in there. And I remember putting this Sport aftershave on in a futile attempt to impress in amongst the library books. But I can remember the smell quite distinctly, actually. And it was what you would call a sort of after sport fragrance. Definitely, this was definitely the intention of the name on the bottle. And yeah, if I ever did smell it again from somewhere, I'm sure it's long out of production now and that it's not manufactured anymore anywhere, that none survive. But if I did smell it again, it would definitely take me all the way back to those heady days in Corsham Library, where I later went to do my work experience, but that's a 2000s story, so we can't tell that. So yeah, I will go for the enigmatically named Sport.
Well, you made a big mistake there, didn't you? You should have put on reading
Of
to go down there.
course,
You put on the wrong one.
studious. That's what I should have put on.
Yeah. Did you like hang around the poetry section, looking kind of like you were swept up in the romantic poetry, and just hope that she saw you?
Smoking a Gulwar and looking. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I probably was just checking out Soccer 97 again, or the PFA Footballers Fact File 95-96.
Yeah. Absolutely reeking of sport.
They used to have in there. It was a book, and I saw it somewhere recently, and I thought I can't buy that again because it is now not in a field that interests me. But apart from the fact-based football books, the only other football-related books the library had were to do with Man United. So they had Ryan Giggs' My Story, and they had Alex Ferguson, A Year in My Life, which was, I think, the 94-95 season, and he basically kept like a diary of the season and written his thoughts up about each match and everything, or he took, talking to a reporter or something, and they put this book together. I remember checking that out loads of times just because it was about football. Wasn't a Man United fan, wasn't then, I'm not now, but just because it was about football. And I must have been, 6 or 7, I'm checking out this big hardback written by Alex Ferguson. And I remember my mum coming into my bedroom one night when I was reading it and sort of being quite impressed that I was reading such a large hardback at such a young age.
Yeah.
But maybe didn't realise that it was just about transfer dealings, and I wasn't reading the history of the world or anything like that. But still,
probably
nice to impress your mum from time to time, isn't it?
Yeah. Probably formed the basis of your football manager career, isn't it? That
Maybe, yeah. It was in there, ingrained from an early age. Something I've retired from now. Not played it since lockdown. Had to wean myself off of that. What about your fragrance? Sorry, I've taken us off on a massive dive. There's been too much football in this episode already. That's it now.
Yeah, there has. Yeah.
We got to move on.
Well, as we're talking about football, actually, just want to say congratulations or commiserations to the Lionesses, depending on how the match goes on Sunday, because this will come out way after that final has been played. But we'll bleep out the wrong response there and just leave the accurate one. But going back onto fragrances, this was a big one for me. There were a good number of options here, and I've gone for, in the end, the Impulse Spice Girls Special Edition. And this is a slightly odd one for me to choose because I've never smelt it and I never bought it or wore it. But I think Impulse is a very big 90s brand. I asked a few of my female friends this question, and Impulse was the thing that came up. And in the window of my local chemist, when I was living just off Gloucester Road in Bristol in the 2010s, there was a very faded can of this Spice Girl Special Edition Impulse, which, having done my research, came out in 1997. And it was just sitting there. It sat there for years while I, go up and down that street shopping. And eventually it did go, but I just thought it's a combination of two very 90s things, Impulse and also obviously the Spice Girls. And I just thought that is the most 90s fragrance, sort of just in design and the product itself. I don't know about the smell. I don't know if a smell can be 90s, but I just thought it had to be that, basically. And I did find a can on eBay. Actually, there's quite a lot of cans on eBay of the stuff. So the one I found was for £42. Buy it now. So there are still some out there. Obviously, people thought they were a collector's edition, and maybe I should have bought that can in the chemist, just to have on my display case, if nothing else. But yeah, that's my choice. I do have some special mentions, which I'll get to in a second. But do you have any memories of Impulse or any experiences of it?
I do remember it being a big thing amongst my female friends at the time. I can actually link Impulse to the Lionesses, actually. I think Ella Toon is advertising Impulse at the moment in a TV advert. And this is another bugbear of mine. Why can't TV or advertising get football stuff right? So the concept of the advert is she's in her bedroom getting ready to go out, But in the opening establishing shot of the advert, she's wearing like a sort of fake England shirt, and on the back it says Ella Toon. That wouldn't happen, would it? And
No,
it's
no.
massive as well, like really big.
Yeah.
And I saw that, in fact, during an ad break during the match last night, the semi-final, as we record this. And I just thought, why can't people get this right? It can't be that difficult, surely.
It's weird, isn't it? It's like ad executives have never watched football. They've never actually seen it. It's all just based on Brentford rejects or something that they saw when they were growing up.
Yeah, quite right. Anyway, sorry, I've derailed us into football yet again. I think I might have sent a can of Impulse or given a can of Impulse as a gift to somebody at one time as well. I don't know if it was a Spice Girls special, but yeah, definitely something that you would associate with the 90s as a fragrance. And if we're going to pick between the two, I think there can only be one winner. Normally, you're very gracious in saying that my personal memories, when I bring them up on what's the most 90s, are worth something towards the decision. But I think it has to be Spice Girls Impulse here, shortly.
I think so. Yeah, I accept that with thanks. Yeah, I think it just felt like the right answer to me. But I do have a couple of special mentions, as I said. The first one is Davidoff Cool Water, which I became aware of flicking through. I suppose must be my mum's magazines, like She magazine and things like that, or just big glossy magazines. When you'd get a sort of sample of a scent of a perfume or an aftershave by you'd fold over a page, wouldn't you? And there'd be a bit somehow in there. I think famous is in The Office, where it's either The Office or Alan Partridge, where he rubs it on himself because he hasn't anything else to use. I think
He's got a copy of GQ. Yeah, it's David Brent.
Yeah. And I remember thinking Cool Water seemed like a strange name for a scent because it just seemed like that would be something that didn't smell of anything, Cool Water. But it did something to my brain, and I definitely it's very sort of transporting that smell to me now, and the whole imagery of that. It's very just feels very 90s. And also, I mean, it would be remiss of us to not talk about Lynx, I think, if we're going to talk about 90s scents, because all those classic names like Java, Africa, Voodoo. Again, coming back to Alan Partridge, the famous scene with Dan, Voodoo, Java. And yeah, I mean, every PE changing room in the United Kingdom in the 90s would have smelt like one of these different Lynxes. And of course, there was a competition amongst the boys who had the newest one, who had the best one. What was the big one that came out? I remember when Africa came out and it was the big new Lynx fragrance. And yeah, just very, very 90s. I know it still exists, of course, but I have looked again on eBay and I found a full tester set, which included Java, Tempest, Nevada, Alaska, Oriental, and Musk for a buy it now price of £1,999. But the seller very generously offered me a discount, and this is just from me looking at it. I didn't even favourite it, I don't think. And just by looking at the auction, I was offered a much fairer price of 1,300. So I'm currently mulling that over, just seeing if it's worth it. But
I'd stick with the Impulse if I were you, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I just had to give a shout out to Lynx and Davidoff Cool Water. But I think Impulse Spice Girl Special Edition will be going in the ledger on this occasion.
Rightly so. Well, on to the main topic of tonight's episode now, and we want to talk to you about school summer holidays, but not going away during the summer holidays specifically. We want to talk about the sorts of things that we used to do to keep ourselves occupied when we were at home during the school summer holidays in the 90s. And I guess, Alex, where we should start is what were the sort of childcare arrangements for you and presumably your brother during the holidays?
Well, it would have been my mum, because my mum didn't go back to work until I was in sort of year 5 or 6, which would have been, well, actually that only went up to the mid 90s. Up to that point, my mum just wouldn't have been working. She was stay-at-home mum, so it would have been all on her. And then I think after that, it must have just been worked out between her and my dad. There was never a babysitter. We never went anywhere else. So I think, they just would have worked it out between themselves. And my dad being a painter decorator and my mum being a legal secretary, I think they just would have been able to do it between them. I think probably my dad did a lot of it, actually. What about you?
Well, I suppose looking back, my folks were quite lucky to have my nan and granddad, my mum's parents, living in Corsham. So first of all, it was across the park when we lived at Hither Spring, and then later on we lived on the same road. So I was just dropped off to stay there during the summer holidays, which was, in hindsight, very handy for them because now in today's working world, you often see people with children sort of struggling to balance annual leave and things during school summer holidays and making sure that everything's catered for and paying for childcare, things like that to balance everything out. So yeah, I think my folks were really lucky in that regard, and I'm sure they'll be the first to admit that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it seems so tough for parents now. I'm sure it was for a lot of parents back then as well. But yeah, we were both quite lucky by the sound of it.
Yeah, definitely. And another major advantage that my nan and granddad had was that their house was directly opposite the Springfield, the biggest park in Corsham, mentioned many times in It Will Be Alright in the 90s, Pass Him. And in the beginning, obviously, I would go over there with my nan and granddad when I wanted to go to the park, and then later on, as I developed friendships with kids on the road, we would go out, and it obviously seems a bit of a cliche, but we would go out and be in the park all day, and then come back for our dinner, and then go out again, and then come back. I think people these days seem to cling on to that sort of thing as like a sign of how much better things were in the old days, that the kids would go out and do that sort of thing and not be inside on phones and tablets and games consoles all day. But that was genuinely my experience. I didn't get to take the consoles or everything to my grandparents, but it was something to look forward to when I got back home with my parents in the evenings as well. So I'm very lucky that the days were always, filled with different activities, and I don't remember ever really being that bored over a summer holiday. Did that ever creep in for you?
I don't remember ever being bored. No, unless it's one of those things where you just forget that you get bored
Mm.
when you're in like it's February and you're in the winter or whatever that would be the spring term and you're sick of it and you just can't wait for the summer holidays and you think it's going to be the best time ever. Unless there's some of that selective memory. I don't think I ever did get particularly bored. No, even though obviously it being the 6 weeks holiday as we used to refer to it. Um, I wonder if kids still refer to it as a 6 weeks holiday, but that's a long time, and it felt like a long time when you're 11 or
Mm.
9 or whatever. I guess I would have been, yeah, well, between 5 and 14, 15 for the 90s summer holidays. So yeah, it just would have been endless. But I don't remember ever getting bored particularly. No. Yeah, for me, I didn't live in town. I lived just outside of Corsham, in a well, it wasn't even a village. It was just a house, like way out. And I was even luckier than you, I think, in being close to the park. In that, basically, I had a whole patch of woodland that me and my brother could just play in, and it was private woods. It was sort of owned by our next door neighbor, and it just meant that we had this whole place to ourselves. And I think my summers in childhood are about as idyllic as you can imagine them being for someone growing up in the 90s in the UK. It was
Hmm.
just, yeah, I was so lucky to be able to have all this space, have all these fields, and like I say, woodland to do what I wanted in. And we would, we would invariably play Robin Hood, me and my brother in the woods, or just climb trees. We had a certain amount of bases, like these set bases in the woods. There'd be like base one, two, three, and sort of moving in and out of them and inventing games. My brother being almost 4 years older, so it was a fairly good age gap. I think there was no one was too old or too young, especially around the
Hmm.
90s. So it was pretty idyllic, yeah, in that respect. But then I didn't have the benefit of having friends around the corner like you did, so I couldn't, call on mates to go and play a game of football or anything like that. It was very dependent on either my brother or just amusing myself. My dad would have been doing some work or other, and my mum would have, been doing something around the house. But that said, yeah, very very lucky to be where I was, to grow up where I did in northwest Wiltshire.
Wow, I didn't realize your childhood was like Little House on the Prairie.
It was, yeah. I don't know if there's any Calvin and Hobbes fans out there like I am, but some of the imagery in that and what those two get up to, I very much link because I got into that when I was yeah, sort of pre-teen in the 90s. Yeah, I really link that imagery with my childhood. That's obviously set in America, but still, anyone who's a fan of Calvin and Hobbes sort of think that sort of imagery, but not a stuffed tiger. Just think of an older brother instead.
The days are just packed.
Exactly.
Well, I can speak of having things on the other end of the scale and having too much contact from friends and wanting to be left alone to do my own thing at points. I remember
Yeah,
one particular summer holiday, this must have been coming towards the end of primary school, and I had a particular friend who I won't name because it was a lovely thing to do, really, and I don't wish to appear ungrateful, but they knew that I stayed with my grandparents during the summer holidays, and there was a period of about 3 weeks where they came to call for me every day, and then I had to like think of something that we could do together.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it did get a little bit too much for me. And I remember one day, I remember it was a Friday, and I remember vividly, Heartbreak High was on the TV
yeah.
mid morning. Seem to remember that came on at 11:15. He hadn't called, and I knew that if he hadn't called by then, he probably wasn't going to, and that I could get on with what I wanted to do for the day. And that didn't necessarily mean staying in on my own, but I wanted to go out and see other friends, kick a football around, ride my bike on my own, do other things. But yeah, and like I say, I don't wish to appear ungrateful, and he didn't probably think that he was doing anything wrong, and he wasn't really. But yeah, I remember that being happening one summer holiday and just having that little problem.
Yeah, now that you say that, that reminds me of a friend I had. This would have been at the end of the 90s, just about where it got to the point where I had to not answer the phone or just because he couldn't come around because the distance was too great. But
Hmm.
but we were still arranged to do stuff. I had to either not answer the phone or just pretend that I was busy because it got a bit too
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it gets sort of claustrophobic, doesn't it? And a bit like yeah,
yeah.
just uncomfortable. So yeah, I can identify with that as well. The dark side of some holidays.
It's nice to be liked and wanted, though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but yeah, with it, the summer holidays was also a time for the rare thing for the rest of the year, which was the daytime play date. I know that's like a real Americanism. I don't know what the British equivalent of what we called it. I think we just called it going round or two or
Hmm.
something. I don't know. But anyway, the daytime version of that was very thrilling because you weren't just confined to a few hours in the evening and having dinner, then going home. But to have like a long afternoon and dinner was really exciting, and I very much associate this with bike riding, probably on a polo bike. So it would
Hmm.
always be this is a sort of bike of the 90s, I think, for children, especially in teenagers, would be a mountain bike, flat handlebars, no suspension, and yeah, probably an Apollo or maybe an Emil or a Rally. They were the big brands, and maybe bullhorns or cow horns
Hmm.
on the handlebars. That's a very 90s thing for bikes, which you don't see anymore. And my bike didn't have them, but I remember going to buy some sort of aftermarket cow horns, cutting the end of my handlebar grips off, and then attaching these cow horns. I don't know what the point of them was really, or why they were very popular for such a short amount of time. Because I mean, why? So you can put your hand in that position. But yeah, it's a very 90s style of bike, which you still see them around now. And I do enjoy seeing that style of bike. Apollo, of course, being the Halfords
Hmm.
brand of the day, which I think has been replaced by Carrera. I think that's the new Halfords brand. Yeah, so yeah, big for bike rides. You weren't as big on bike riding as me, were you?
Well, that did come a bit later when I got my first proper mountain bike when I was about 9 or 10. I definitely got it for one of the birthdays. I remember it. I remember being given it the night before my birthday because my dad had to go and pick it up, and then they couldn't like conceal it anywhere. So,
Hmm.
so they had to make the decision to show it to me the night before. And then my cousin Paul, sadly no longer with us, but he was big into like mountain biking as well, properly. And then
Hmm.
through that, because I worshipped him, I got into it quite a lot. And I do have a point here to remind myself to talk about the courses that I used to set out. So when I got big into it, I would spend a lot of the holidays riding around. And then one of the things that I used to like to get from Argos, I had it installed on a couple of different bikes, was those little bike computers that you used to be able to get.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you'd have a little screen on the handlebars mounted on your bullhorn handlebars with a couple of buttons, and then there'd be a lead going down there, and then there'd be like a sensor that you'd attach to the front wheel.
yeah, yeah,
So it would give you your speed and it would give you your revs per minute and everything. So I loved having that data available. And then I set a course. Now, everybody else, you'll have to bear with me here, but caution geographers, you'll be able to picture this in your mind. So I'd cross the road from my grandparents' house and I would be at the opening of Springfield from the Beachfield roadside, so next to the tennis courts, right? You with me?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So you cycle down there, past the small play park that had the green wrought iron around it,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
take an immediate left, which would take you downhill in between that play park and the school Redcar.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then you'd go through the car park for the Springfield Leisure Centre,
hmm
through the car park, then round past the proper pedestrian entrance to the Springfield,
Yeah.
past the community centre, back up onto Beachfield Road. Then you turn left when you got to the tennis courts and you start the lap again.
hmm
And I used to
Yeah.
time myself on that lap. I remember being told off by the same lady on the same day twice for going too fast. She's like, I told you once before, you're going too fast. There are other people here. I'm like, right, okay. I think I did stop after that. And I had one for when I got like a little one of those little stunt scooters a little bit later on, the first time they were popular. I had a
Yeah.
smaller course as well that just went round the block in my grandparents' house, but the bike one was the main one, and I used to I used to do laps of that and just see what my best lap time would be and what my best top speed was and all that, and entertain myself that way. So yeah, I used to really enjoy doing that. And then obviously as you get older, you start riding further afield and going to meet friends as you've described. So yeah, but it all started with me with just doing time trials around the Springfield Centre.
I bet that lap's on Strava now. There's probably people are still doing that.
Oh, can you do it now? Oh, yes, you still could do it. Most of the course is still there, I suppose.
Yeah, it's just a bit
Um,
different, isn't it?
yeah. Now the community centre as was has been demolished and replaced by a more modern community campus. So I would have to revisit and just see how the corners have been remodelled, shall we say?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like the old Hockenheim compared to the new Hockenheim.
Exactly that. Exactly that.
Yeah, well, speaking of the Springfield Centre, as we so often do on this podcast, I think swimming was also a big thing that I did, I suppose, on these daytime play dates. And much like with shopping, which we talked about recently on that episode, there were three tiers of swimming pool for me.
Okay.
There'd be the local pool, Corsham at Springfield, which didn't have any slides or anything. They'd have sort of, I suppose, open pool sessions where they would, if you're lucky, throw in a load of
Yeah.
inflatables and balls and stuff, which was like incredible fun, even though it was just a football in a swimming pool basically. And then the next level up would be the Olympiad, which was in Chippenham, which is the next biggest town over, which had a couple of slides. Did it have? It had like a rapids bit, the bit that like pushes
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
round,
Yeah.
and I don't think it had anything else other than that. There was no wave machine or anything. And then the big one would be to go to the Oasis Centre in Swindon, of course, made famous because that is where the band Oasis got their name from. Apparently, we were inspired by that, and recently closed down, I think, wasn't it? And they're currently trying to save the building as as a listed building because it's such a, I don't know, it's an example of brutalism or something like that. But that was the big pool. You'd go there on school trips sometimes, and that had three big tube slides. And a wave machine and the rapids and everything. So those would be the tiers of swimming, and that would always be a good fun trip to do with a friend or two. Did you ever go to any of that? You must have gone to at least the Olympiad.
Yeah, I'm not sure I ever did get to the Oasis. It has to be said. I'm not sure. I wasn't that big on swimming. It took me a while to learn. I'm sad to report. It took me a while to get that first length, which again I think I've spoken about before. But yeah, I do remember going a couple of times with people again when I was a bit older. But it was never something that held too much. It was never first on my list to do. I think I preferred doing laps around the swimming
Yeah.
pool as opposed to actually being in it. But yeah, no, I can definitely understand the allure of both of those fine establishments. Yeah, did the Olympiad a couple of times as well for people's like birthdays. We would go to the Olympiad and go on
Yeah.
the slides and things. Yeah, that was a staple as well, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, big birthday thing. Are there any computer games you associate with summer holidays, particularly anything that came out over the summer and you played with friends or anything like that?
I do remember being in the park one evening, coming home for my dinner, and then my mum telling me your friend Tom Coles has rang, who I was friends with in year six, and then never saw again. Actually, don't think he came to secondary
Hmm.
school. I'm not sure where he ended up. So Tom, if you're listening, etc. And he says to come round tomorrow for one of those all dayers that you've mentioned, and to bring Gran Turismo 2 with you, which he didn't
Oh,
have, but I
lovely.
did. So the next day I went. I remember my nan and granddad took me up there because obviously I was supposed to be staying with them, and we spent the day playing GT2. Yeah, so that's the biggest computer game memory I have from a summer holiday. I also remember we must have been at home for some reason with my mum, so I didn't go to my grandparents, and me and Sam Sibic, I talked my mum into letting me try to set up the Mega Drive on the TV because these were the days when you didn't leave a console out all the time and you would put it back in the
Yeah,
box or in
yeah,
its case and put it away when you weren't using it. And I remember making a
yeah.
complete hash of it and screwing up the TV, and my mum being quite annoyed, and my dad having to sort it all out when he got home. So we never did get to play Turbo Outrun that day.
Yeah, that's a real shame. The idea of being able to mess up a TV for the things you're plugging in.
You know that like sort of grey static that you used to get
Yeah,
when you
oh,
went on
yeah,
a
yeah.
channel that wasn't tuned in, or you had the channel that you had the video player on, but you had to switch. Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah, I think that black and white static is a very nostalgic sound. I'm not going to say it's very 90s because it was
Hmm.
probably right from the birth of TV, but yeah, I for me that's a very nostalgic sound.
Well, speaking of TV, obviously the summer holidays also provided the opportunity for a lot of something that we wouldn't normally get to experience, which would be daytime TV.
Yes, big time.
So, do you
Big
have any
time.
favourites that you can remember?
I do very much so, yeah. I remember watching a lot of two very old things. The first was old Batman. So this is Batman when it was like the POW and Crash,
Hmm.
graphic coming up when they were having fights. It's, I guess Adam West era, just very silly, and it was just on, and it was sort of exciting because it was Batman, and it seemed like we should like it. And this was pre Marvel and DC just being ubiquitous and that's everywhere as they are now. So it was sort of exciting, but a bit rubbish. And then we would watch, for some reason, we'd watch loads of Mork and Mindy. Mork and Mindy is the program of the summer holidays for me. I guess they were just showing reruns on whatever channel it was, maybe Channel 4, throughout the summer. And I watched the intro again the other day on YouTube, and it's brought the memories flooding back. But just an early Robin Williams sitcom performance for anyone who doesn't know. I think it's actually from the late 70s into the early 80s. And so these were reruns. They weren't on in the 90s live. And then also The Adventures of Tintin, which was that wasn't on all the time. That would be on occasion, and that was a real treat because I was a big fan of the Tintin books. So to see the cartoon was a lot of fun. So I think they're the three things that stand out to me. What about you?
So I really liked quiz and game shows, and there was one in particular that I made an appointment to watch every morning. I think I mentioned before on the pod that when I was staying with my nan and granddad, we used to go into the town every morning and get some sort of shopping that was required. Definitely the newspaper, but other bits as well. But I think we would only leave once I had watched Win, Lose or Draw with Bob Mills, which was my favourite. Which for anybody who has never seen Win, Lose or Draw, I'm sure you have. You're all students of the '90s, but it's basically Pictionary on the telly, isn't it? That's all it is. Previously hosted by Danny Baker, of course, another one of my broadcasting heroes. I'm a very big fan of Bob Mills as well. I love In Bed with Me Dinner, which obviously I wouldn't have watched at the time, but I do now. And his appearances on Fighting Talk on Five Live are always very good value as well. But I used to love Win, Lose or Draw, and the Monday morning that I sat down, because it had like a House of Games vibe. So they'd record 5 episodes a day, and they would have the same celebrities in as the teammates of the members of the public throughout the whole week.
Yeah.
And the Monday morning that I sat down and they introduced Andrew Paul, who plays PC Dave Quinnen in the bill, as one of the special guests for that week, my mind was blown. Absolutely superb. So I enjoyed that entire week. Unfortunately, none of those are on YouTube. There's a few random episodes of Win, Lose or Draw. There's one with Johnny Vegas as a contestant under his real name, which I think
Oh,
is one of
really?
his first ever TV appearances. Yeah. Yeah, he was on Win, Lose or Draw.
Mickey.
Hi, Bob.
Do you prefer Mike, Michael, Mickey, what?
Whatever makes you more comfortable.
Mickey, is Mickey all right?
Mickey's fine.
I might start off with Mickey and then later on just breeze into Mike.
Well, you know, whatever suits you.
And you're from St Helens, big rugby country, obviously.
Yes.
And so you trained as a potter.
I trained as a potter, Bob, but...
have you got a wheel? Have you got...
not my own, no.
Well, that's
I have to borrow a...
Oh, well, that would be the problem then. But you're pretty good at it.
Yeah, not
But
so
you
bad.
also have a bit of a sideline.
Well, I'm trying to break into the world of comedy, Bob.
Trying to break into the world of comedy.
Oh, no wonder he's so funny.
Trying to break into the
Stop
world of
it.
comedy. So it's Michael...
Oh, my stage name, or my...
So you don't use your real name?
No, I don't.
Stage name, which is...
Johnny Vegas.
What about that?
Johnny.
Can I get me plug in? It's not a night out, it's a memory.
You ready to go?
Well, that's strange.
So yeah, I like that, and I also remember liking one called Runway, which was hosted by Richard Madeley, and it was about travel. And again, it used to be on, like, literally that would finish, and then This Morning would start. So Richard Madeley would often make a joke at the end of the show about, and I'll see you all in a couple of minutes. He obviously knew it was going to go out before This Morning on a weekday. I enjoyed these programmes to an extent that I then used to get my dad to video them for me when I went back to school. I also remember doing this with Supermarket Sweep for a while, which I became a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
But then later on, when I found myself getting into the same sorts of things that Diamond Joe Barter was into, he would quite often lend me VHSs to watch over the holidays, particularly stuff like Red Dwarf and the original Doctor Who, which hadn't been on TV for a long time then, but his dad had quite an extensive collection of that sort of thing, and he used to very kindly lend me some stuff to watch over the holidays as well. I remember a long afternoon watching episode after episode of Red Dwarf with a silver 2-litre bottle of Diet Coke and lemon, and just drinking the whole thing and watching Red Dwarf all afternoon.
That sounds like a perfect afternoon.
Well, it still does now, doesn't it? It was obviously onto a good thing.
Yeah. I think watching TV during the day was just a novelty, wasn't it? You only ever got that on holidays or if you were ill. So you just saw different sorts of things, and you kind of realise, there's TV that goes on throughout the day. It doesn't just stop when you go to school and start when you come back for CBBC. I never watched any of This Morning, but my mum was more of a Good Morning with Anne and Nick sort of woman. So saw bits of that with Anne Diamond, and I can't remember what Nick's surname is, but
Nick Owen.
He's still Nick Owen. That's it. Yeah, he still does local news TV presenting, I think. But yeah, daytime TV was a real treat, and I don't think CBBC or CITV were on in the summer holidays. Am I right about that, or was it a different programming in the afternoons?
No, I remember it very differently. I think there was more of it in the summer holidays.
Okay, maybe I'm just getting mixed up with when Wimbledon was on, which we've talked about.
Possibly.
Before.
Yeah. Certainly, maybe not ITV, but certainly CBBC had, I think on BBC Two, most of the mornings over the summer holidays were given over to children's, and then you would have the regular stuff in the afternoon as well. Yes, I very much remember that.
Yeah, okay. That's a relief. Of course, if you were really lucky, it would be an Olympics year, so 92 and 96. You'd have had Barcelona and the Atlanta Olympics, and that would be great because I'm sure that would have been over the summer holidays to some extent. It's sort of a July-ish thing,
Yeah,
isn't it?
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be fantastic, and that would often get me setting up some hurdles in the back garden and trying to recreate Sally Gunnell and et al. Yeah, so I definitely think of going through phases of being into athletics, and they would inevitably have coincided with Olympics.
Yourself and Adam taking the kayak out to recreate Pinsent and Redgrave in the sculls doubles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, on the pond.
Few other summer holiday memories to mop up then. The first of which is the summer that the Springfield tennis courts got re-tarmacked, and it was absolutely suffocating in my grandparents' house over that summer. It was baking hot, and there was hot tarmac being laid on the tennis courts. It was horrible.
Oh, it's such a nice smell, though. Warm tarmac. Maybe not if you've got it all summer, I suppose.
Well, when we do What's the Most 90s Smell, as opposed to What's the Most 90s Fragrance. Hang on, have we already done smell?
I don't think we have, no.
Okay, right, well, stick that on the slate then. Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I just wanted to mention, which is a lovely thing that I remember with fondness, is that occasionally, and only occasionally, just to keep it special, if my dad was going out on a delivery run from where he worked, he would sometimes stop by my grandparents and see if I wanted to go in the van with him to wherever he was going. And he used to take me on the delivery runs to places like Fleet in Hampshire, sometimes to Bristol, and they were really special trips. I remember fondly. They had an Astra that was really really quick, and my
Hmm.
dad used to drive it quick as well, and it was really exciting. So
Yeah,
yeah, I remember
that's
that with
cool.
fondness.
Very nice. An Astrovan, like an Astra Max.
That's
Those
exactly it. It
little
was an
ones.
Astra Max. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was thinking
Ah,
of. Yeah,
one of the coolest vans ever
yeah.
made, the Astra Max.
Like shit off a shovel. It really was. Do you have anything else there that you haven't mentioned yet?
I think I've got it all off my chest for me personally. We do have some correspondence from our listeners, though, which we can delve into now.
Of course, I think we definitely should do that. Well, we'll start with friend of the pod, Teresa Stenson, who has already been mentioned, who has sent in a lovely message that reads like this. Friends calling for you to either go on a bike ride somewhere bonkers like a faraway wood or an abandoned quarry where you'd feel like you're in a reconstruction of a 999 episode, or just take a walk to the spa for a can of pop. 999, of course, another one of our favourite TV programmes.
Yeah.
Mornings watching Saved by the Bell, California Dreaming, and Pugwall. Pugwall's one you've mentioned recently?
That's the one that Channel Nem, Neil,
Yes, of course, yes.
gave
Yeah.
a shout out to. Yeah.
On Wednesdays, buying the much awaited latest issue of Just 17 to scour it for flirting tips and fashion ideas. On Saturdays, going into town to sniff everything in the body shop and peruse the latest fashions in Tammy Girl and Clock House at CNA. Maybe buy a point romance or point horror book or the latest CD single you loved. At home, listen to it on repeat while laying on the bed and feeling wistful. Every night and some mornings and afternoons, write in diary, transcribing any important conversations with boys from memory, or just writing your own terrible love stories and dramatic poems. In 30 years, share them with strangers on the internet.
And yes, thank God, Teresa, you did keep that diary back then because we're all benefiting now, aren't we?
Absolutely. That's a lovely message from Teresa. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, fantastic. This is from Legend of the Pod, Hannah Kelly. She says, I was lucky enough to go on various summer holidays abroad with my family when I was younger, and I would always make friends and come home with several pen pals, most from the UK, but also other countries. We would keep the letter writing going for longer than you'd think. I have a stack of letters still in a drawer at my parents' house. I'll try to take a photo next time I visit. When I was not away, I was spending my time with friends at Roll Arena skating or the local ice rink. And that's Roll Arena with a capital R, so this must have been a specific location in Bristol.
Mhm.
Or I was in town trying on clothes in shops like Tammy and CNA, which is chimes with what Teresa said, to look like our favourite pop stars. So yes, thank you, Hannah. There's some themes coming through, definitely with the shops that people were going to. But do let us know what Roll Arena skating was, where that was, and what exactly it was, and who was there, because that sounds exciting.
Yeah, some clarification on that would be very well appreciated. Vicky Parry writes, reading Sweet Valley High books on a 70s chair in the garden. Croquet, that's a new one. That's one we haven't had mentioned as a summer holiday activity.
Yeah.
Then we get back to more normal fare. Biking to pals' houses to smoke in a field. Watching TV all morning. Reruns of My So-Called Life, Little House on the Prairie, Saved by the Bell. Drinking loads of Kiora. Going to Tammy and Superdrug to pack my case as per the Shout, Sugar and Bliss holiday essentials. Going to the Body Shop Factory Shop in Littlehampton. These are obviously young and tweens things, but very 90s. So yeah, Tammy gets mentioned a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, big time. This next one is from Legend of the Pod, Brother of the Pod, Adam, who says, watching repeats of old TV programs in the morning, brackets Mork and Mindy is the one that I remember the most. I also remember getting access to the secondary school with some friends to make a spoof magazine / news program with a parent's camcorder. We used one of the classrooms as the studio, probably only allowed as my friend's mum was the school nurse. Apart from that, I have no idea what I did during the summer holiday, so I'm hoping the upcoming episode will shed some light on it for me. He also says, I think Alex and I, that's me, not official Alex of the pod, Mitchell. I think Alex and I were very lucky to spend the early 90s living near some woodland where we could play safely. And because we had parents who didn't let us watch TV or play computer games non-stop, we were forced to go outside and appreciate our surroundings. So yes, I concur with that.
Can we just go back and rest for a moment on this magazine TV show that Adam made at school with a camcorder? I need to know the specific classroom, please, Adam,
Yeah.
at some point, if you could let me know, just so I can picture this. That's amazing. Being let in
Yeah,
school after hours is
yeah.
something else. Have you ever been in school after hours? What was the reason? Was it during the holidays, during the evening? Whatever. Please do write in and let us know. That's another strand I'd like to explore more.
Yeah, definitely. That makes me think of the parents' evenings. I think I've talked about before. I think it was on our secondary school episode when we talked about our
Mm.
first experiences of school. So yeah, secondary school after hours is a very atmospheric place for sure, especially when you don't even go to that school yet. You're in primary school. I think it's
Mhm.
like an abandoned cathedral or something. Very, yeah, just vibey. Yeah, I would love to know, Adam, where are those videos now? I remember seeing some of the videos you made with your friends, not ones from school necessarily, but I do remember you making videos with Ben Barnes and Peter et al. And yeah, I'd love to see them now if you've got them anywhere.
Peter et al. Good bloke.
Yeah. Oh, cracking right foot he did. Yeah.
A quick one here from Laura Jane Collins, who says, "Building dens, playing Rally Co." Does that ring any bells with you?
No, don't think so.
We'll have to look that one up. Endless warm days laid on spiky grass with friends, adventures on bike rides, and recounting every word he said to me with my best friend for hours. That's very, very vivid as well, isn't it?
Yes, very evocative indeed.
Well, thank you so much for all your correspondence on that. We really do appreciate it. It was lovely to read all those. So thank you very much for sending those in for us.
Yeah, we really appreciate getting any correspondence on this podcast. You know that. So to have so many messages on this topic was really appreciated.
And that is school summer holidays in the 90s. Alex, do you want to come round for the day tomorrow? We'll start with watching Win, Lose or Draw, and then we'll go from there. What do you think?
I'm busy, I'm afraid.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry. I've
well,
yeah.
that's okay. I'll come and knock on your door every day for the next 3 weeks, and then we can hang out. It's fine.
Okay.
If you, the listener, have any recollections of school summer holidays that were not read out in our correspondence roundup there, that you haven't submitted yet, that you would like to submit for us to read on a future episode, or indeed you have anything you'd like to get in touch with relating to anything we've spoken about on this episode or any other episode of the podcast, Alex, how can people get in touch with us?
They can find all the relevant links on our link tree, which is linked to in the episode description below. And we prefer comments on Instagram or under the YouTube video versions of the episodes. But also we have an email address, so do use that if you want to send us a more fulsome and longer message, then that's where to go. But it's all there on our link tree, so check it out.
Please do keep the correspondence coming in. We really do love and appreciate hearing from you. Next time on the podcast, we will be talking USA 94. I know this is going to be a big one for you, Alex, your favourite World Cup of the decade. Hopefully we're going to speak to a special guest regarding that wonderful tournament. We will keep you informed. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. I'm just off to see if I can beat my lap record around the Springfield course.
And it's goodbye from me. I'm just off to see how cheaply I can get a can of unopened Lynx Tempest on eBay.
School's out for summer.
Goodbye.
Ta-ta.